Remember what former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh famously said? History will be much kinder to me than the media, he argued, during the final years of the UPA when outraged television anchors could not find one good thing to say about him.
I think, taking into account the circumstances and the compulsions of a coalition polity, I have done as best as I could do under the circumstance.
Well, frankly, he won't have to wait that long to say, "I told you so." He was right. He deserved a much better report card than we in the media gave him. And here's the irony. The one thing Dr. Manmohan Singh scores on and has never been given credit for is his approach to press freedom. And to journalists like myself, who were often critical of him, we all mocked him for being too silent. Manmohan, we sneered.
मनमोहन सिंह जी आए थे और आज की सबसे बड़ी खबर यही है.
But he never, not once, tried to silence us.
I was not the Prime Minister who was afraid of talking to the press.
Many criticisms of Dr. Manmohan Singh still hold. His legacy, like that of most national leaders, is a mixed bag. His personal integrity notwithstanding, he did not crack down effectively on the corruption of colleagues and peers. And his awkward power-sharing arrangement with his party meant that his authority was often eroded. Had he resigned earlier, even his worst critics would have applauded. But none of this changes the fact that he was a genuine Democrat. Like many in my fraternity, I'd often used harsh words for him. But as Prime Minister, he still met all of us with unfailing civility, no matter how critical we'd been. Not once did he shut down channels of communication or our access to government officials or even those who worked in the Prime Minister's office. He upheld the institutional freedom of the press in a way that even his own party did not. We took it for granted then, but today, as the independence of television news media slips to a nadir, we must give due credit.
डरो मत, हम आपके साथ हैं.
Even Rahul Gandhi has only just started doing regular press interactions in his new avatar. Perhaps in the beginning, he too had an aversion to the media. Manmohan Singh, however, on this was ahead of the curve.
Narasimha Rao ji said, "No, you go and get dressed up and come for the swearing-in ceremony." So that's how I became the finance minister. So people say I was accidental Prime Minister. I was also accidental finance minister.
This week, Dr. Manmohan Singh released a collection of his writings called Changing India and reminded us that though we'd called him silent, he'd never been scared of speaking to the media. He's right. Manmohan Singh may have avoided individual one-on-one interviews, but he spoke freely and regularly at press conferences. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi took charge and ended the tradition of journalists accompanying him on trips abroad, the right wing presented this as the end of the stranglehold of what they called Lutyens media. But what really ended was the mandatory press conference by a Prime Minister on board Air India One and the right to interrogate the highest office in the country. Given that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is yet to hold a single press conference, though he has given individual interviews to preferred journalists, you decide what is more democratic. The answer is obvious.
Can you take the photo for me, please?
Now we live in a media age where access to information is determined by who the government likes or does not like. If you're a reasonable critic or frankly anything less than a declared right-winger, your opportunity to just be a professional is curtailed. And worse, you may even be shunned or vilified.
I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
That's enough.
Mr. President.
As the fight between Jim Acosta of CNN and President Donald Trump in America shows, denying access to information can also be a form of intimidation. That's why CNN and several major US media networks actually sued the Trump administration when Acosta's White House credentials were suspended. But here in India, we tend to accept these kinds of covert clampdowns. So the least we can do is to be a little more fair to the one national leader who, despite all his other shortcomings, did allow the media to breathe. Manmohan Singh did not have the flair or the flamboyance for new age politics driven by social media. You certainly won't catch him taking a selfie for sure. But his instincts on the media were those of a genuine liberal. And we don't have to wait for history to stand up and say so. See you next week for more News Ka Juice.